Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is kind of an epic day in terms of news that I'm covering on both channels. Olivia Newton-John died, and Ashton Kutcher is having some sort of physical meltdown. I mean, I did a video that was packed full of stuff on my other channel, the Apocalaughsnow channel. And then I want to get to the Trump stuff and the Pete Davidson stuff and Kanyed, and lots of things that are, I'm not even going to get to all the things I wanted to cover today. But let's start here. Sam Asghari defends Britney Spears' harmless, risque pics amid K-Fed feud. This is Kevin Federline, says he's supportive of Jamie Spears, thinks he saved daughter Britney's life. This guy, who just, when you look at him, you know he's a scoundrel, right? I mean, K-Fed, whatever. I don't know that much about him, but I just looked at him like, oh, that's not a good person. And he is the guy who is, he's sort of the health of this situation, right? Like Britney and the Spears side, this guy and his wife and that whole family is an absolute mess, right? So this guy, who is, clearly not a good person, is by far the best chance those kids have. But Sam Asghari, the new husband to one Britney J. Spears, he said, even if there was truth to her kids being ashamed of her mother's choices and positive body image, they wouldn't be the first teenagers embarrassed of their parents, Asghari wrote in a now deleted Instagram story. The mere presence of a parent can humiliate a teenager. She's posing nude in a weird way, right? I mean, what she does there it makes me uncomfortable. People are sending me this thing all the time when she does this. She's done it quite often. It's just not the nude pictures, but she's like rolling around on the beach and just a strange, she's crazy. And so when a crazy person who's in her 40s is posing nude in a social situation like on Instagram, why do that? Like, why do that? And why would he want her to do that? Like, he's her husband. What husband wants his wife? I mean, what, husband they have a positive relationship wants his wife out there posing naked in front of the world in Instagram, right? I mean, why would he want that? But certainly teenage boys don't want that. And she's Britney frickin' Spears, and everyone knows, like, wherever they go, they're her kids, right? Everywhere those two kids go, they're going to be Britney Spears' kids. Britney Spears is your mom. That's what they're going to hear. And every time she has some sort of a meltdown on Instagram, those kids are going to get teased. I mean, this is America. That's how American life works, right? And, their friends be looking at the kid's mom as a MILF or something, right? And so, I mean, that's why you don't do that. And, Britney Spears was one of the number one pop celebrities, maybe one of the number one top celebrities of her era, right? I said this about Madonna, Madam Expiration Date, of course, Will Smith. How much attention do you need? Like, how much do you have to be fed on Instagram? And she gets into this little girl, like, alter personality. I showed the thing with her in the, where she was holding a little soap in the bathtub. This is her from, like, I don't know, like 2 years ago. It's just soap.
The pink rose? See how beautiful that is? Watch. It's just soap. That's all it is. It's just soap. It's not really a flower at all. It's just soap. Hey. Fooled ya.
Sounds like a child, right? And so when she gets into these things, these weird modeling things that she does, her constant posts on Instagram, this thing that she did where she's like displaying her crotch and things, right? She's a 40-year-old woman, so whatever she is, devil's horns. And again, married, and no need for all kinds of compliments about her physical appearance, all this stuff that she does, right? She doesn't need it. I mean, she should need it. You were Britney effing Spears at one time. you were a popular celebrity, you got plenty of positive feedback and love from fans. You got 41 million followers on Instagram. You don't need to do something like that, right? And a lot of it's just weird. And the majority of times she does something where she poses new, like she did this thing with her hat, right? Where she's covering up with her hat, all these things. People are like, are you okay? Right? These weird ones with just the red box. And so she doesn't need to do that. She doesn't need to roll around naked. And again, she gets into these little girl modes and is basically softcore porn where she isn't even getting paid. Like she's not getting paid by Playboy or something. I mean, she's just giving away for free on Instagram. And of course her kids are going to be upset. Like, of course her kids are going to be affected by that, right? You know, nobody wants to know about their mom doing that in a public forum. And you just don't do it. But she's crazy. Like, I don't even know why I'm saying this, because she's crazy. I mean, she's like, this would either be she's an incredible actress or she's just crazy. She's a child star. She comes from a kind of effed up family. And now she's doing this. But, you know, you don't whine about your kids and her, you know, new husband saying, oh, this is just great. It's not great. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. Everyone who looks at these things should say, oh, this is uncomfortable. You know, I mock them, make fun of them. But it's, you know, somebody who's breaking down mentally. And it has effects on your, you know, certainly your kids. Your kids don't need to see that. Right? It's not like, you know, you got 41 million followers. Anytime you do stuff, it's national news. I mean, I see these things every day being covered by, you know, Page 6 and all the other, I mean, sometimes on regular media. You're having like a, you know, a mental breakdown with these things, these posing things that you do. Left, right, left, back, forth, these things, right? Like, what do you need? Like, what are you looking for here? How does this help you out? How do you this make you feel good about yourself, right? So speaking of crazy, FBI search at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home tied to classified material, sources say. You know, there's this thing that happened in the middle of the night is covered on all the sort of front page news. My wife told me around 11 o'clock last night, maybe later, I don't know. But it was something, you know, why do it in the middle of the night? I'll get into this. I want to talk about this at the end of the video. Republicans lash out Justice Department. The FBI search at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home tied to classified material, sources say. When an FBI search won't stop Trump from running in 24 and might encourage him, well, this is like a campaign ad for him because people are going to be up in arms. And even people he had sort of lost, now with the way the country's going, it'll bring them back into Trump's corner. It's a good thing for him and his campaign. They didn't find anything. Under siege, there are these Trump supporters, right? Like the scene of Die Hard movie, FBI raids Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, breaks into his safe. And he, you know, just everybody is like flipped out about this. Again, doing it in the middle of the night is just like a dickish move. FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, question swirl, what did he take from White House? Well, let's just show the clip from Chuck Schumer, and then I want to comment about this more at the end of the video.
I am not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model.
Just a reminder, I'm Jake, not Chuck.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Back at you.
Back at you.
Back at.
I have 3 memes with the name Chuck in them. They started to roll the ball. So here's the thing. This was a interview with Rachel Maddow where they're talking about how President-elect Trump, so this was in the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017, when he was about to take office, was already talking smack about the intelligence community. And then he realized that was a bad idea because the intelligence community ruins presidents' lives, right? They have their own, you know, set of force and power. And whether, you know, whatever Trump is in terms of being in on it or not in on it or whatever is going on with him, that was a mistake. And they've gotten the guy a bunch of times, and they just got him again, right? I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Whoopi Goldberg had elevator fart war with Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. Something tells me Whoopi won. You know, staircases go to heaven and elevators go to hell. Pete Davidson sends a message with his shirt after Kim Kardashian breakup. It says, Davidson wore his heart on his sleeve, or in this case, his shirt, following the news wearing a T-shirt with a human-sized insect sketch on it, which read, "What? I feel like S," by filming the movie Wizards. And there he is doing his good job of acting there. And there's the strange insect person, and looks like a handmade shirt. Pete Davidson in trauma therapy following Kanye West's attacks on social media, because he said Skeet Davidson dead at 28, right? And so it says here, Pete Davidson has been in trauma therapy largely due to Kanye West's attacks on social media, several sources confirmed to Page 6. Like, this is just so effed up. The just complete, like, meltdown of this generation and younger who can't stand up to the smallest bits of criticism or, conflict when he's the one who started it. We'll get into that in just a moment here. Kim Kardashian livid over Kanye West's antics after Pete Davidson split. It says here, Kanye West is mourning the fake death of Pete Davidson following SNL alum's breakup from ex Kim Kardashian. A source close to the Skims mogul 41 exclusively told Page 6 that she believes her ex-husband is back to his old ways. Kim is livid and incredibly upset. Kanye is back to his old ways, and Kim will not tolerate his bullying behavior towards the people she loves and cares about. Remember this bullying behavior because it's going to come back up. Kim and Kanye have had such a positive co-parenting space with communication lately. Kim even was happy to support Kanye and do his Yeezy shoot and post for him. This is just a reminder to her that he will never change, and there'll never be a chance of reconciliation. So you remember Kanye West did Saturday Night Live like 2 years ago. Maybe 3 years ago, I don't know. Maybe 3 years ago, I don't know, something like that. And after the show, he went on a MAGA rant. So it must have been maybe 3 years ago before the election. And he put on a MAGA hat, and he sort of took everybody hostage, and he went on a rant. And Pete Davidson was the one on Saturday Night Live that was given the task of doing a hit piece on him, which is understandable. But when you do something like this, you're going to, upset somebody, especially like Kanye, right? So it starts here.
Kanye said after he went off the air last week was one of the worst, most awkward things I've ever seen here.
And so it starts off with that, right?
Here's what it looked like. So, that inspires me. I'm on the left. I'm oh, God.
So, this is Kanye going on his rant after the show.
So Kanye was wearing a MAGA hat.
So he said that in a mocking way, right? Laughing at him for wearing a MAGA hat. How dare he be a Trump supporter when you got this wonderful candidate in Joe Biden, right? And that he goes into saying how Kanye said that he was bullied and the people didn't want him to wear the hat. But then Pete Davidson says, no, he wore the hat all week and nobody bullied him.
He wore it all week. Nobody told him not to wear it. I wish I bullied you.
He wished he bullied him. And now he's in therapy, and his ex-girlfriend, Kanye's ex-wife. And again, these relationships are all fake, whatever, but I'm going with the official story here, whatever this is, right? And he wished he bullied him, right? The word bullying is often misused nowadays because it's really about who has the power. Political bullying or social bullying is about who would have the power. Now, Pete Davidson said he wished he bullied him. He's certainly doing a hit piece here on Saturday Night Live, but now him and Kim are crying because Kanye put an Instagram post up and they're claiming that's bullying, right?
I wish I would have suggested that, it might upset some people, like your wife or every black person ever.
And so he says he wishes he's bullied him, right? So this is him going in on Kanye. And, he's a comedian, and this is what you're supposed to do. And, mocking people on the internet is a thing, right? I do it, so it is what it is. But you can't expect Kanye to like it. And I said this before. So as true or real as this is, Pete Davidson made an enemy in Kanye West. But Kanye West didn't respond to this. He didn't say anything negative about Pete Davidson. But for whatever, realness there is in Kanye's relationship with his ex, Kim Kardashian, right? Whatever is real about their relationship, she would know that they're enemies. And you could say, this is the kind of stuff that draws attention, these fake rap battles, they're both in on it, fine. Whatever. That's more than, more than just a possibility. It happens all the time. But let's say this is real. Let's just say, just in terms of we're talking about a movie or something, we're talking about the characters and the decisions they make, that when you have a breakup, there are people that your ex knows that if they dated would provoke you, right? Everybody knows this. When you're in a, a breakup situation and you have a hostile feelings towards somebody, you have a hostile relationship with them, and your ex goes out and dates them, especially somebody like this ghoul who is, a guy who can't sustain a relationship, who is mentally ill himself, and we'll get into that in a moment. She's getting away from Kanye because he's mentally ill. That's her story. She even said it when she did her monologue on Saturday Night Live, that he's crazy. That's the reason for the breakup.
I married the best rapper of all time.
She married the best rapper of all time. And it turns out that Kanye walked out just because she called him a rapper and not an artist, right? That's his feelings was that this joke, which, is derogatory towards him, the thing that he took away as being insulting was that he was called a rapper and not an artist because he thinks he's so much more than a rapper, right? Because Kanye
He's the richest black man in America, a talented, legit genius who gave me 4 incredible kids.
Woo!
When I divorced him, you have to know it came down to just one thing: his personality.
Okay, because he's crazy, right? Kanye said his bipolar issues were his, his superpower, and that's what makes him kind of great and funny, And so she's going to leave him for this guy, right? So this school here, who is, a depressed loser with borderline personality disorder, a drug problem, a case of a ghoul. He's 28, looks like he's 57, right? Isn't long for this life. And he has his own set of relationship issues. So she's just swapping out crazy. She's taking one set of crazy and swapping out for another set of crazy. And you knew that wasn't going to last, right? We all knew it. Everyone knew it. So then he said this.
You know how wrong about politics you have to be for me to notice?
And so, he's saying that he knows more about politics than Kanye. But the big part was the crazy talk, right?
Kanye, I know you're yo, this is the real me. I'm off the meds. Take them.
So he's telling Kanye to get rid of his superpower, what Kanye considers his superpower, and take his meds.
There's no shame in the medicine game. I'm on him. It's great.
He's on him. He goes on to his taking the meds and how he needs the meds. He's a big recreational drug person. Smoked a ton of pot, so much pot that Louis C.K. went to Lorne Michaels and said, "You got to fire that guy." On Saturday Night Live, he would show up in his pajamas during his work week when they were writing about the show they were going to put on. And he smoked pot, and then he works one night a week, right? Too much for him. Kate McKinnon, 10 years of working one night a week for half a year. Too much for her. This is what's going on now, right? And so he set in on Kanye about not taking his medication. He went into that. So I'm going to play this last part again.
There's no shame in the medicine game. I'm on him. It's great. Take him. There's nothing wrong with taking him.
There's nothing wrong with taking him. So he's somebody who takes his psychological medication. Besides self-medication and all the rest of it, he's on the psychological medication. And Kanye put up a meme, and he has to go to trauma therapy, right? The whole thing is really, it's in kind of an indictment of Kim Kardashian. Again, whatever reality or whatever fakeness is in this relationship, that Kanye has to go to get reprogrammed at least 3 times, where he went to a reprogramming center. He came out blonde like Pete Davidson in this video, right? He went to a reprogramming center 3 times at least when he was in relationship with Kim Kardashian just recently. And, you know, he's going through a divorce. Divorces are really tough. Divorces come with a mandatory spiritual year of punishment. Third master of the heartfulness system, Master Charge, he talked about how divorces carry a mandatory 1 year of punishment. Even if it's not your fault, and sometimes it isn't, right? Sometimes it's a one-sided situation. You know, it's funny because when I heard that, I was listening to some AM, like the next day I was listening to some AM sports guy, right? Some local sports guy. And he was talking about how Bill Parcells, the coach of the Giants, had just gone through a divorce. And he says, everyone knows the first year after divorce is hell, right? It's just a difficult period of time. It's very stressful. There's lots of layers to stress in a divorce. And Kanye experienced them, right? And Pete Davidson inserted himself in the middle of that process. And, you know, for a short-term situation. Everyone knew that him and Kim weren't going to get married, right? And so, you know, Kanye went to reprogramming, came out, and now is more cooperative. I mean, how many times is Kim Kardashian going to send some poor dude to a reprogramming center? I mean, treatment center, in air quotes. And now Pete Davidson is in one, right? Maybe they're looking at the wrong person. You know, this Babylonian hoe, right? There's 2 goats and hoes. Every man that she comes into contact with has to go to some sort of reprogramming center. And then there was this.
Understands. I made this. Make Kanye 2006 again.
Woo! So he went all in on Kanye. And like I said, for Kim Kardashian, she would know that Kanye didn't like this guy, right? And it's not like she's switching out a crazy person for a sane person. She's a mother with kids, and she dated this, you know, really creepy, ghoulish MFer who is clearly not husband material, right? After she and Kanye, or she divorces Kanye, as she put it, right? So she dumps Kanye for this guy, his enemy, and she talked about how Kanye would go and get triggered. Like he was constantly getting triggered. We've seen him get triggered before. And she knew this would trigger him. And then conveniently, they use all this stuff to release an album for Kanye, all this publicity, and release her new TV show, which is just another version of the other Kardashian crappy TV show. Like they couldn't stay off the air, right? Like the same thing with Britney and Madam Expiration Date. They just can't walk away from getting the attention of people they don't really know, don't care about, and look down on, right? I mean, these celebrities who think they're so much better than everybody else, they need the attention of people who are, you know, low-functioning people, stupid people, whatever it is. Like, how does that make you feel better? How does that make you into a better person? Or, you know, how does that feed you in some way? And so now they're going off on Kanye because he did one post that's a now deleted Instagram post. He's going into trauma counseling, right? I mean, this is the generation we live with. This is what's going on out there. These young kids, I mean, they're all like, oh, I've been traumatized. And their parents like, oh, you know, nobody can handle life. Like, it's brutal out there, right? It's survival of the fittest. Life has never been kind. We all going to have to face things, and we all do. And so you made choices. You made a choice to go in on Kanye, and then you made a choice to date his wife while they were in the middle of a divorce in a very public way, right? It's not some just like private relationship. It's a very public, you know, whatever it is. You know, she knew it would trigger him. Your relationship wasn't going to be like you guys were in love and you're getting married, right? It isn't like she found her soulmate and said, Kanye, I found somebody, you know, it's just more suited for me, who's going to be a good dad, a good whatever, right, to the kids and all that. Like, none of that. He's a mentally ill, drug-using fiend, you know, tattooed fiend that nobody would want around their kids. no husband would want to see his ex-wife dating Pete Davidson. Like, I mean, and maybe some loser or something, but no, person who cared about his kids would want this guy as a part of their existence. And again, so Kanye fired back, and he's the villain, right? This is the guy who attacked first. Like, he didn't have to go after Kanye, but he did, which is fine. And Kanye didn't say anything about it. And then he goes after his, wife when they're in the middle of a divorce. And so there was this thing that happened, right? But it's traumatic for him as a stand-up comedian who did celebrity roasts, for Kanye to post a picture of a gravestone and say R.I.P. Pete Davidson, right? Like, is this what we're dealing with now? So just so you understand, we're dealing with two alleged crazy people. Now, everybody's a little bit crazy. And those Kardashian hoes aren't, I mean, they're all messed up, narcissistic, and, whatever it is. But there are people that you're going to meet in your life that are just on a little bit of the next level. I used to work as a counselor. I work with a DSM-4 and 5. And people who are talking about being on medication, are talking about their mental illness. Pete Davidson talks about his mental illness all the time. When they talk about it a lot, it's a bigger issue. Like, they're giving you a warning sign, right? Like, everybody's messed up. Everyone's got something. Everyone's diagnosable. But the people who are, like, proud of it and they're constantly talking about that and their therapist and what they're learning in therapy and how they're growing as a person, that's like a giant red flag. I'm going to ruin your life is what they're saying, right? By the time I'm done with you, you're going to be in the fetal position, praying for the angels to take you away. Like, that's what they're telling you, right? The people who are just up front and, they talk about, I've been in this institution, I've been in that, or, within the first 5 minutes of a conversation, they tell you that they've been abused or, whatever. They start talking about things that happened to them. And, a lot of that is like an excuse. I mean, it's, it's real, but it's also, it's going to be something they use to excuse their behavior later on when you're like, why are you doing this to me? And they're going to be like, I don't know, I'm crazy, right? Didn't you hear me? I told you when we first met, right? And so Pete Davidson is a very diagnosable person if you just looked at him. But he actually talks about his mental illness quite a bit. Kanye just got diagnosed, but he talks about that being a superpower. And you can make a case that it is because Kanye puts out good music. Like, he's talented at what he does. I got a number of his songs on my playlist. He's a lot funnier than Pete Davidson. A lot of his rap songs have jokes in them, and he says funny things. Kanye is a lot more entertaining, a lot funnier, but, he has mental issues. Whereas Pete Davidson is, depressed and suicidal, and, the personality disorder stuff is always tough, the borderline stuff. But he's not a good comedian, right? I think he's maybe, better than Jimmy Kimmel, but certainly not much better. He's not a good actor or anything, so he really doesn't have much talent. He's not nearly as talented as, say, Kanye. And yet, Pete Davidson is the one who's looked at as the good kind of crazy. Like, Pete Davidson is a good kind of crazy. Kanye West is the bad kind of crazy. I mean, that's how they're putting this narrative out there. Pete Davidson is the more gentle of the two, where Kanye is the bully who tortures people with his craziness. He set in on all those Babylonian hoes over at Kardashian land. And he was so mean to them. And Kim regrets letting this guy into her life so he could just be mean to her family and everyone else, right? And yet, Pete Davidson is the one who mocked Kanye first, went after him politically, went after him in terms of his, and said that, he was betraying his own race and his wife. He was embarrassing his wife. I mean, this is things they were saying about him. This is a little bit more than just, and then he said, get back on your medication, right? And he mocked him about the whole hat and, his political views and all these other things. And then he ends up, banging his wife and they're in the midst of a divorce. And Kanye is displeased because he's Kanye. Everyone knew he was going to react like that. But he's the problem for reacting like that, right? Like, they made those choices. She chose to be with somebody who nobody would want around their kids, like I said before. and Kanye's somehow the bad one, right? Kanye's somehow the negative person in this whole scenario, where those Kardashians, I mean, they got their, she got her birth into the world of fame from her dad defending O.J. Simpson, the O.J. Simpson frickin', the first reality TV show, and a sex tape, which her mom encouraged her to make public so they could, get that whatever reality TV coin that they're making, right? And somehow Kanye's messed up, right? That he worked hard and established a career based on his art, right? He has talent and abilities where neither of these two clowns do. Pete Davidson is pretty much talentless, a depressed zombie who somehow rose to fame and now is working his way through the Hollywood Hope, the Hollywood Hope Parade, right? And, and Kim Kardashian, I mean, she has virtually no talent, right? She is a lawyer that failed the bar exam like 14 different times and can barely construct a sentence. But somehow Kanye is the problem because his beliefs are inconsistent with the beliefs of the mainstream beastly system, right? Same thing with Trump. Like Trump is, I mean, both Kanye and Trump are insiders. They're both a part of the beast, but they're not always beast friendly. Once in a while, they attack the beast, where these other guys are obedient to the beast. Other guys, I mean Pete and Kim, they read their lines, they stick to the script, and so they're considered the good kind of crazy, the good kind of celebrity. Where people who don't, they get trumped and they get Kanyed. So this was, my wife sent me this.
This is Black Mirror in real life.
Black Mirror TV show, which is about technology run amok.
Somebody just bumped into me, but we in Montreal, and they got this new thing just in the middle of the, you feel me? Like, I don't know how to explain it. What is this thing?
Look at it.
This in Montreal, downtown. Me and my dog wondering, like, what is this?
So this is well, he's going to say it here.
Look at this, man. It's the pyramid.
Pyramid with the Illuminati eye.
With the eye on it.
The pyramid was scanning people's faces and telling them information about themselves and their body.
Look at this.
Look, they got an Illuminati eye right there with a smiley face on it. And
I analyze one face at a time.
Get as much data. Go ahead and get your face recognized and your handprint. There you go. Put your hand up there. Make sure you get it in there. Make sure this thing that was gone full Illuminati scans you, and they can't wait to go up to it.
It's creepy, dog. But you gotta see what it's saying to her. But peep, though.
They were scanning palms and fingerprints on the backside.
Yeah, why not? Let go.
It's telling you, though. They want you to put your whole hand on it to get your fingerprints in their stuff.
All right. So there's that. Why worry? This is, a smiley face with your hand and an eye in the middle of it. Illuminati pyramid right there. Just go ahead and give your data to it. They're not warning you or anything. It's just completely transparent. They're above board, right? Completely trustworthy. Just to recap, I'm in the editing process. So in Montreal, which doesn't have the pyramid and capstone on the back of their dollar bill, but it's a well-known, the Illuminati is known throughout the world now because of the Dan Brown books and everything that's happened since then. People know the term Illuminati, right? And they know the capstone and the pyramid are a part of this. It's now a known thing. And so they put a capstone of the pyramid in the middle of downtown Montreal, and people are approaching it, and it's asking them for personal information, something that they should know is something the Illuminati would want, right? It's like a psychological experiment, and people are giving them their handprints, maybe even some DNA, giving them facial recognition, and they are, going right up to this oracle and bowing before it and handing over all of their personal data, even though they have been warned in countless TV shows, music videos, truther videos about the Illuminati, and they can't wait to go up there and hand over their personal data. So I want to go back to the Trump thing, right? And the Alex Jones thing as well. See, what they're saying here is there's no justice for Republicans, for, middle-class people, or, people who are wealthy but not Illuminati wealthy. Trump, obviously. But even famous people like Trump, right? Somebody who's wealthy and famous. And Alex Jones is wealthy as well. And he's made hundreds of millions of dollars on his crappy show and his, merch and all these things. And what they're saying is that you will not receive justice. It is a message to, certainly white people, but not just white people, but people who are, wealthy and, either they're truthers or they're, leaning away from the left or whatever it might be. And this comes from the intelligence community. They're showing you these things where they're raiding an ex-president's home saying they can do this to anybody. And again, you have this Hunter Biden thing out there where the guy is a crack addict who is laundering money through is like a phony art scam. Like one of the biggest, laundering money scams out there is doing artwork and selling artwork. The guy's just doing things like that. He's been busted with, questionable, not just questionable, his business partners, Tony Bobolinsky and others, have said he's made deals based on his dad's influence, his dad's involved in it. So many things, right? There's an FBI investigation of him, and they'll be treated completely differently. Trump made the mistake of pissing off the intelligence community, and it's hard to say with Trump how much he knows he's a part of it or how much he's being used because he's such a tool and such a pawn. And he could have went in a different direction. He could have backed truthers. He could have backed so many different things, but he just half-assed it. Of course, he pushed the you-know-what. He's just he's just a nightmare, like a fake, right? He's somebody, a flim-flam man. He uses groups, he uses demographics, he uses people, and then craps all over them. It's just what he does in his personal life. He's just one of those people. Had he stood up for some of these things, the deplatforming, or if he could have created his own social media network, or one that was, something where alternative news could be posted, right? Instead, he went with these mainstream social media networks. He got deplatformed. He walked right into that post-election thing. He's been a complete disaster. And now they're showing you that they can just humiliate him and do whatever they want and just, bogus charges. And they got so much from his presidency. There was more movement to the left during his presidency than there is now under Jojo Magoo, because there's pushback. And so Trump was great for them and has been great for them for the news media. He's such a left cover, right? He gives them so much momentum and so much anger that's fueled by people who hate him. And so keeping him alive, keeping him relevant is really important to their whole agenda, and Trump's given him all those things. But you saw this with Alex Jones, who was a complete shill as well, but that trial was like a non-trial, right? And now they're saying, they can just, go after anybody who doesn't agree with the mainstream media narratives, right? And now this thing with Trump. And they're sending a clear message to people. And I covered the IRS thing with their getting, stocking up on $700,000 worth of bullets, right? Ammo and things. And so we have, a situation where a message is being sent. And it should be clear to people who are middle class, upper middle class, that, they've talked about taking away your privilege, white people's privilege, whatever it is. And American privileges are going to be taken from you. And it's not just America, it's going to be global. Because the economy melted down in 2019, and they just haven't told you yet. That it became insolvent years and years ago, and it became, they lost the ability to really hide it. They lost the ability to, even coming close to fudging the numbers. They're talking about China's economy possibly collapsing in the next 30 days. They're just trying to find a way to keep things going because the economic system is insolvent and now, like, it can't be hidden. And that's what all this is about. And they're putting these things out there because at some point you're going to get a new deal and you're not going to like it. And they want to make it clear to you that whatever rights that you think you have, you don't. Right? Like, you're given permission to own land by the government. You don't own land. The government says we give you permission to own this land, but we can take it back at any time we want. Intimate domain. It's the United States of America. It's all federal land, even if there's state rights and state by state situation. They can take your land from you, and if they can take your land, they can take everything else. You're just now permitted. They're giving you permission to believe that you own something that they own, right? They own it, and they're allowing you to think you own it for a bit, and they can take it whenever you want. They want to strip away generational wealth so that you can't leave your money and your resources to your kids, and then the whole whatever their next agenda is. But during that period of time, everything's collapsing. The world's collapsing around us, economically, socially, morally. People are collapsing, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and they can't. The next generation isn't up to the task. The next generation can't hold difficult jobs. I mean, just see like how it is. The whole thing is just a complete disaster. It's an embarrassment. Like, we become an embarrassment to, like, organic life, to the divine creator. We're so far away from what's natural and normal to us, and they keep on pushing us farther in that direction. And most people are going in that direction, right? Most people are just embracing it. It's only going to get worse. I mean, it's only going to get worse. At some point, it's got to get better. But it's going to get worse first and then better later. And so I don't know how much worse it's going to get. I don't know how long it's going to take. But it's just, just think about if you watch the video on my other channel, just all the Hollywood celebrities melting like flies series over on my apocalaughsnow channel. But everything I just showed you is the same thing. I mean, Pete Davidson, that's a celebrity, Hollywood celebrity melting like flies. These are all things that, I'm not only making regular videos, daily videos on my other channel about this, but I'm including things here that are the same, that are part of that. And so, it's just, this is the apocalypse. And there's no escaping it, right? There's no fixing it. There's no preventing it. It's just, surviving it. You do your best to survive something like this, right? You weather the storm, you endure it, especially young people, and you hope to retain some of the things, not the things that have been bad for us, but the good things. And, I don't even know what those are, right? But, you weather the storm and you hope to build something better on the other side. You got to build back better in a post, apocalyptic world long after these politicians are all dead and buried, and the people who run the system have been disempowered because they went against the divine plan and divine rules. And then you start afresh and try to make the world a better reflection of God and, your divine self, the best of you, instead of what's worse about all of us. But the weakness that we see in the human being, all of what we're seeing now, we're flirting with extinction, right? You can't be that low functioning, that unnatural, and think you have that entitled, and think you have some sort of right to survive, right, as a species. And so that's self-destructive and mentally ill. You can't have, mentally ill people running the world and doing everything. There's the low-functioning people and expect your civilization to flourish, and they're pushing mental illness, right? They're encouraging mental illness in children. Of course, there's a physical stuff that's going on, and that's kicking in. People start now suffering, severe physical issues, dying at a young age, and that's going to continue. And so this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when a civilization collapses, and we have to make the best of it, right? It's funny. It's like, the apocalypse. It's funny. That's good. You can, keep it light, right? Recognize that, this is what happens. The legitimacy of the collapse, because this is what happens when a civilization goes in this direction, when humans collapse, when a species collapses like this and goes in the wrong direction, then their civilization, everything that they all their crappy demonic stuff collapses along with it. You know, there's justice in it. There's divine justice in this, even though we're 100% on a system that's collapsing, 100% dependent on a system that's collapsing. We can say, yeah, well, this makes sense, right? And then we have to just ride it out and, you know, hopefully, I mean, especially for the young people, build something that's a reflection of the divinity within us. That's, you know, that's the only thing that can come out of this, is that we do something better and different on the other side. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely important from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.